Good afternoon. This is the Board of Appeals, Town of Hempstead, April 26th, 2 o'clock meeting. Mr. Chairman, do you have any opening remarks?
Can't turn this thing on, is we will hear the applications for adjournment first, and then we will get into the cases. The way we run the cases is as follows. The applicant makes their presentation, then the objectors, if any, and I'm sure there are none in the audience today, they will have the opportunity to voice their objections, and finally, the applicant or the applicant's representative will be given the opportunity to sum up. We will then close the cases. If you have photographs that you would like to put in evidence and you have them on a phone, the only way we will take them in evidence is if we keep the phone. Okay, and I don't know how many of you want to do that. However, I guess that's it. Patrick?
Mr. Chairman,
we're going to call the applications for adjournment first.
Yes, we have a few applications for adjournment. Start with case 26023, Woodmere 134 Ocean Avenue, LLC. Variance subdivision of lot, maintained dwelling with garage on a lesser lot, also known as 134 Ocean Avenue, as well as cases 26123 through 26223, Woodmere 134 Ocean Avenue, LLC. Variance subdivision of lot area, front width from and on street line to front setback line, front yard average setback, side yards aggregate, construct dwelling, variance side yard, install AC units, attached dwelling, south side of Willis Court, 352 feet west of Nestor Street.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Christian Brown, McLaughlin and Stern, 1122 Franklin Avenue for the applicant.
Robert Litt, Litt Law Group, 66 North Village Avenue, Rockville Center, objecting on behalf of the Polans, who are the next door neighbor.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Litt has a German application.
Mr. Litt?
Yes, we do have apologize. Thank you. Yes, good afternoon. We're just seeking a short adjournment as we were recently engaged by the neighbors, and I know there's discussions going on between my client as well as his client, maybe try to resolve this amicably and see if we can get some positive resolution before we go forward. My only issue is that my client's going to be out of town from June 10th to June 15th, so if we can adjourn it to a date slightly thereafter, that would be great, if that works within the scheduling of the court.
Mr. Brown?
I don't have an objection to the adjournment. Whatever the board can do to accommodate
Patrick?
the schedules.
Is that acceptable?
Yes, that's acceptable on my end.
The June 28th works for me as well.
2 p.m. Okay, case will be adjourned to
Thank you.
Thank you
June
very much.
28th, 2 p.m. Have a good day. No further notice.
For anyone in the courtroom who is here on this matter, you won't get a future notice in terms of a mailing, so note it for your calendar.
Thank you. Yes, we'll update the sign.
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to slide over because I know I'm going to be called next.
Okay?
I'm going to try.
No, he may not be good, but he's certainly popular.
Next, we have a case 26423, Elmont 770 Property 26 LLC, doing business as 26 Motors, Long Island, care of Marcos Benzequin. Variances, front yard setbacks on Hempstead Turnpike and Evans Avenue, maintain display and sale of used automobiles in a business district. Special exception for display and sale of used automobiles, permission to park in Res C district, parking in the front yard setbacks on Evans Avenue and in the clear sight triangle on both streets. Variance in off-street parking, southeast corner, Hempstead Turnpike and Evans Avenue, also known as 1305 Hempstead Turnpike.
Would you like the same date, Mr. Litt?
We're actually looking forward to move forward immediately, even today. I know there was an application that was put forward for an adjournment. That was not from us.
Okay.
My name is John McManamy. I'm asking for an adjournment because I'm not quite sure if this is for Elmont Auto Group or 26 Motors.
Yes, hi, my name is Alan Shamoon. I reside at 140 Evans Avenue, area resident and a registered architect. Just for clarification, I know there's a little bit of confusion. John mentioned about the DBA names. After the zoning sign was put up, the business changed names. It's no longer showing up as 26 Motors Group. It's showing up as Elmont Auto Group. So we're a little bit confused about who the actual applicant is in this case.
Mr. Litt?
All their signage on their property.
Mr. Litt, would you like to respond?
Yes, I would, very much so.
Good.
We're all residing on Evans Avenue on that block, so yeah, definitely. Some concerns.
We'll get to it, ma'am.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
My comment is this, is that we were planning on moving forward today, and doing what we had to do, and we wanted to get the opportunity to chat with the neighbors or anybody who had a concern regarding our application, our process. And I spoke briefly with the two gentlemen over here, and I said, look, we'd like to find out what your concerns are, answer any questions, address any concerns, and it could have been the fact that an explanation as to a DBA or anything else to that factor. When I indicated I would like to discuss it, they did not express any interest to discuss it and said, well, maybe, maybe not. And I said, okay, that's fine, and we're going to move forward with our application at any point in time, but we are available at their convenience to answer any old questions, including DBAs or anything else regarding any sort of objections that they may have.
So you have an application for adjournment. Who's going to speak on your behalf?
Yes, I do.
Go right ahead. When would you like?
Tell us why and when.
Tell us why and when.
I believe we can get the adjournment until May,
Say that again?
May?
May
May what?
24th.
May when?
24th.
And I apologize if I missed it. Why do you need the adjournment?
I want to find out who is, if this is 26 Motors or if it's Elmont Auto Group.
Is that
because
the only
variance is-
reason?
Excuse me?
Is that the only reason for the adjournment?
Is it just a
Well, we
name
also want to
thing,
find out
or-
exactly what they're doing because the
Oh.
parking over there is horrendous.
Okay.
Again, I did ask for, if they wanted to discuss it, if they provide their phone numbers, I'll give them my card, I'll give them my information. I'll gladly share that with them. If they
Okay.
have all these questions, we will answer every one of them
And
in
you
order.
understand that our policy is first time on adjournments are almost
Understood.
always granted.
Understood
Okay.
and agreed with.
So are you available on the 24th,
Yes, I'm available on May 24th. That's
2
not a
PM, Patrick? Okay,
And so no further notice like the last case. And you guys can speak out there to the extent you want to, and then
Yes.
you'll get together whatever it is you want to get together in terms of not just the names, et cetera, but whatever else you want to do so we can go forward on the 24th.
That would be great. My client is actually here to answer any questions that they may have, literally right outside. So if they have a question regarding the corporate names or anything else, we're here to try to resolve it. And we do appreciate the board's time today and understand that obviously it's the first time on and there's going to be an adjournment.
Okay, so keep it down a little if you're out there. And if it's getting too loud, close the door.
Well, you can throw us out here anytime.
Mr. Litt, what is the correct DBA?
From my understanding, is exactly
No, 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 we
770 Property 26 LLC. And the DBA is 26 Motor Island, Motor Long Island. If that's my understanding what it is, if that's
So,
something different,
just
then
to s-
we'll have to address that. But that's my understanding. What's listed here is absolutely correct.
The caption that we have right now is accurate.
As far as I know, yes, that is accurate.
I don't like that answer as far as...
Members, and to you, sir, the attorney for the applicant, I just don't understand, if the business is 26 Motors LLC, why does it say Elmont Auto Group, and why was there a change in all of the signage on the property without a sign permit, I'm assuming, but I'll go to the building department and check.
When you say a change on the signage, do you mean the signage for this
On the
hearing?
property.
Or do you mean the signs that they have up?
Their building signage.
On the
They did
building.
all new awnings, 2 new illuminated signs, all in one day, changed the whole place.
I don't understand why that's relevant to the application.
Well,
I understand.
I have
Well-
one thing to say. How do we even speak to them if all they're doing is getting high, they get mad? How do we
okay,
there's no
sir,
communication?
the attorney said that he will give you his contact information. I would suggest you avail yourself of that. Speak to him, and if you can't speak to him, you'll be back here on the 24th, and you can present your case as they can,
You
okay?
get them available, speak outside.
Okay,
Absolutely.
and hopefully he'll be able to answer your questions, and
And tell
So the next hearing date would be May 24th?
May 24th at 2
2
PM.
o'clock, update the sign if needed, right?
If there's an issue, we will update
There's
it.
no
and make
future
sure it's accurate.
mailing, but if there's a sign update, make sure it happens.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Have a nice day,
Welcome.
everybody. Thank you again.
Yes, sir. Next, we have an adjournment, application for adjournment for 26523 Lido Beach, Eisler Enterprises LLC. Variance height, construct elevator and bulkhead attached to dwelling, also known as 44 Bath Street.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Appearing for the applicant, Howard Avrutine, 2116 Merrick Avenue, Merrick. There was an email request for an adjournment from from an attorney representing some of the surrounding property owners. The attorney couldn't be here today, so I agreed to come in and put the adjournment on the record if it's acceptable to the board.
Have you agreed on a date?
Yes, I spoke with Mr. Bogle and Mr. Owens, and
What about,
May
opposing?
10, yes, May 10 at 9:30, if that works.
Patrick? Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
There's one more case, application for adjournment, 223 West Hempstead, Beis Midrash of West Hempstead. Special exception for proposed religious use synagogue, waive off-street parking with insufficient maneuvering aisle, special exception to park in Residence B District, and parking in front yard setback on both streets, also known as 549 David Street.
Good afternoon. My name is Margaret Kelly. I'm the president of the Community League of Garden City South. Mr. Benesso has been kind enough to meet with the community one time. We believe that there's more questions to come out, so he's been kind enough to ask for this adjournment once again, so we can try to get to a medium with the community.
Yeah, it's actually it's a second request on behalf of the Civic Association, but we're not opposing that. We had a very, I'm sorry? I represent the applicant, yes, I apologize. We had a very productive meeting, I felt, with Ms. Kelly and her board back 2 weeks ago. She's now going to take it to the community, and hopefully we'll have any additional questions answered in advance of the hearing, and may even have some sort of agreement to present to the board at that time. I spoke with Mr. Owens, and he indicated that May 17th would be available. I believe Ms. Kelly is okay with that as well. Yes.
So the signing. We're trying to work together for you.
Thank you, Mr. Riano.
I know. We'll do our best. Thank you. Thank you. We'll speak.
That is all the adjournments. Okay, first up is case 26323, Woodmere, Eastwood Residence LLC. Variance, lot area occupied, front yard setbacks on Eastwood Road and West Broadway, rear yard construct dwelling, also known as 302 Eastwood Road. You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and address for the record.
All right, good afternoon, Chairman and members. Christian Brown, McLaughlin and Stern, 1122 Franklin Avenue, Garden City, appearing for the applicant.
Gabrielle Sabzeru, representative of Eastwood Residence LLC.
So we're here before you today on a request for a couple of area variances related to the construction of a proposed new dwelling 302 Eastwood Road in Woodmere. It's on the corner of Eastwood Road and West Broadway. The requests, as my client can tell you, are kind of come out of a long design process. We're trying to make the house fit as of right, but also make it marketable in this particular community, at a number of versions of the house, and this is sort of what we've settled on, as hopefully you'll agree, a compromise that makes the house marketable for sale for the clientele that, the demands in this particular market, but are not substantial zoning requests. So as you know, this is a corner lot, so we need relief from the front yard setback requirements on both streets. That's what the notice says. I see Mr. Pellegrini's look. I had the same question. The setback on to Eastwood Road, which is the true front yard, that is proposed at 22.8 feet. I believe the requirement is 25 because it's a corner lot. So it's 22.8 where 25 would be required. And
The structure you propose is actually set back 20, wow, small writing, 28.72 maybe?
it's 28, yes, it's almost 29 feet to the main structure.
So
the encroachment is the portico, which brings it down to 22.
But it's only the portico going.
That's the only encroachment.
Okay, keep going.
So that should be, that variance should be judged against a 25-foot requirement. And the same on the
Oh, yeah. No, yeah.
the other side, which will function as the side yard of this house. We are proposing a 20-foot setback to the property line, and 25 would be required. This is a two front yard situation, as I mentioned, so that would be the side yard. There is no abutting neighbor there, and the property will be fully fenced in to West Broadway. We are also requesting a variance from the rear yard requirement. Rear yard required is 25 feet, and we are requesting a rear yard of just under 21 feet at 20.9. So a 4-foot request there. And we also have a small request for lot area occupied. 27.5 is permitted, and we are asking for just under 29, so a 1.5 request for lot area. This house is designed to be a 5-bedroom house. It's in the 5 towns. As you know, the market there demands or looks for larger homes with respect to bedrooms because there are many large families there. Otherwise, it's totally standard house with a basement, 2 stories. There's no entrance into the basement or anything that would raise any of the typical concerns that the board looks for. So these are minor variances we're seeking to, as I said, hopefully make the house as marketable as possible without, offending zoning in an egregious way. The lot is just over 6,000 square feet, correct? Yeah.
On the bottom of the site plan, it indicates area of lot 101A, 6,075.
There was a previous subdivision of this property. And so this is we're now looking to build a new home on this half of the subdivision, which was previously completed.
So it didn't need any action of this board, did it? Because it's...
I don't believe it, no, I don't believe it came, no, it did not. It went straight to the county, I believe, and again, the idea in the beginning was to try to create a house that was zoning compliant, but for the reasons I mentioned, we'd like to have a little bit of extra room.
Sure.
And these are minor variances. That may be what the confusion is. No, I don't.
Yeah, I have a question, Chairman. Yeah, Mr. Brown.
Yes.
What's the hatched area?
The hatched area is the area that basically is beyond the original proposed footprint, sort of like the area where we need a variance, you might say. That's what we're... you understand that the concept was originally to try to do an as-of-right, but the hatched area shows where we're encroaching basically into that second front yard. Basically, yes. That's sort of the extra house, if you will, that brings us here.
Oh, you're not two houses? No.
Of course not.
No questions, Mr. Regano.
Chairman, I would move that the hearing be closed, the matter be placed on the decision calendar. Mr. Brown, you and your client will be notified by mail of the board's decision once it's rendered.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, have a nice day. Aye.
Next, we have case 26623 East Meadow, Mitchell Field Senior Citizens Redevelopment Company. Variance in off-street parking, proposed improvements to existing parking area in conjunction with senior housing, also known as 1485 Front Street. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please take a seat, state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon again. Appearing for the applicant, Howard Avertine, 2116 Merrick Avenue, Merrick.
Sean Mulrine Engineering, 1225 Franklin Avenue, Garden City, New York.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is the application of Mitchell Field Housing Senior Citizens Redevelopment Company for a parking variance. The premises under application is located on the northerly side of Front Street, 605 feet west of Merrick Avenue in East Meadow. It has a street address of 1485 Front Street. It is also known as Section 50, Block 601, Lot 8 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. It has a lot area of 7 acres and is zoned GA Golden Age District. It is developed with a 125-unit senior citizens development constructed in 1980. The approved site plan dated August 16th of 1980 calls for 148 parking spaces with 11 handicapped accessible spaces. Under the present application, the applicant is proposing to renovate, resurface, and restripe the existing parking lot at the premises, primarily to provide additional handicapped accessible ADA compliant parking spaces. The spaces that are presently on the site from vintage 1980 are not compliant with current ADA standards in terms of the aisles and the width of some of the spaces and the hatched area adjacent for cars being able to get, people being able to get in and out. And so it is the applicant's desire to bring all of the handicap compliance spaces into current ADA standard compliance so that everything will be as it should be. In doing so, we are losing some parking spaces. That is the whole purpose that we are before the board.
I
Yes.
apologize. You said that you require 148, is that right?
No, that was
That's the
what was
provision.
required under the 1980 approved site plan.
Oh, because I'm trying to read the very, very small print.
Yes, understood.
Just to understand the required,
Well, I'll get to that
it
right
looks like
now
it's
if I could.
20
It's 209. Under current town regulations, 209 spaces are required for the 125 residential units based upon 5 spaces per 3 dwelling units. That was not the standard in 1980. It was a much more relaxed standard back then. So there were fewer spaces required than there are today. So the proposed plan depicts 140 spaces with 10 ADA compliant spaces. That winds up being 8 fewer spaces than depicted in the approved plan from 1980. But the technical variance required under 2023 requirements is 69, because 209 are required and 140 are provided. So this will result, if approved, in a brand-new parking field, fully ADA compliant, resurfaced and restriped. Unless the board has questions of me at this time, I have Sean Mulryan to testify, and I believe his report is already part of the file regarding the parking demand available at the site and the parking supply.
Not that I'm aware of. Thank you very much. Once again, our office has prepared a traffic parking study for the subject site that's been submitted to the board. The subject site, as we've discussed, has been up and operational for approximately 40 years. The site is fully occupied. There is typically a waiting list for units as they become available. So what we were able to do for this application is not only use the standard ITE trip parking generation data to back check this information, but also to look at the existing site and how it's operating. So the ITE parking generation says that the site would generate 76 parking vehicles, and what we looked at was security footage during the overnight hours throughout a course of 1 week. So Monday through Sunday, each night we looked at video from or still shots from the security cameras, and we're able to count how many cars were physically parked on site. So we found that there was a peak demand of 77 vehicles parked overnight at the existing facility. The subject site is going to provide 140, which is a reduction from what is there today. But again, the reduction is based on the use of current day ADA accessible parking spaces, which is an upgrade to the existing facility. The sidewalk ramps are also being upgraded so that it's easier for persons with disabilities to get into their apartment units. So we believe that this is a good application. We found no evidence that there's any off-site parking issues. We found that the parking on site is more than adequate to accommodate the existing tenants and whatever guests they may have. Once again, this is an existing facility. It's fully occupied. So this is not a future condition, but it's a present-day condition. And we found that the reduction in parking of 8 spaces would not have any adverse impact to the existing site. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
And on the site plan, it shows Meadows Redevelopment Co-Owners Court. I believe this piece was previously owned by the town of Hempstead?
It was. The town of Hempstead, I have a copy of the deed here. Let me just pull it out, if I may.
And the co-owners, are they the occupants of the units?
I believe it's a cooperative. The title, the town of Hempstead conveyed title by deed dated September 17, 1980 to Mitchell Field Senior Citizens Redevelopment Company, which is a limited partnership organized as a redevelopment company pursuant to Article 5 of the Private Housing Finance Law. So that is the entity that has owned and operated the facility since 1980.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the hearing be closed, the matter be placed on the decision calendar. Mr. Avertine, Mr. O'Ryan, and anyone else who signed in on the case will receive a copy of the board's decision by mail once it's rendered. Safe home, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Any second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Next, we have case 26723 Oceanside, CSS Oceanside LLC, doing business as F45 Fitness. Special exception for place of public assembly and amusement, proposed fitness center in a portion of an existing building, also known as 3131 Long Beach Road.
I think it's,
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth,
Yep.
and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Take a seat, state your name and address for the record.
Dominic Minerva and D'Agostino, 107 South Central Avenue, Valley Stream, New York, attorney for the applicant. Good afternoon.
good afternoon.
The application before you today is for a special exception for the proposed conversion of vacant former restaurant space to a fitness center in the existing shopping center located at 3131 Long Beach Road in Oceanside. The proposal includes the conversion of 3,070 square feet to a fitness center. The proposed fitness center, if approved by this board, will be an F45 fitness center, which is a small boutique-style fitness center, not a health club, as they provide fitness in small group classes with an instructor, similar to uses such as CrossFit, Orange Theory, or SoCycle. Customers cannot just show up and work out on their own. They have to register and participate in a scheduled class. Classes are 45 minutes in length, and they're scheduled 1 hour between so that there's 15 minutes for cleanup. This is a common use in strip-type shopping centers throughout Long Island. It's become a very popular use as there is less retail tenants looking for space, and it provides a nice tenant mix in the shopping center. The proposal is fully code compliant and no variances are required. The shopping center is on a 7.5 acre parcel, and it contains 84,886 square feet of space with a mix of retail, office, and restaurants, so this application is for a small space within that center. The special use criteria in Section 267 of the Building Zone Ordinance provides that the Board of Appeals shall approve the application if it finds that the use will not prevent the orderly and reasonable use of adjacent properties, including permitted or legally established uses, and will not be detrimental to the safety, health, and welfare of the town, as in harmony with the general purpose of the ordinance. As stated, the use will be a small portion of the overall center, with a mix of uses that will be complementary to the center and its existing uses. It'll be well contained within the shopping center, so there'll be no noise or other negative effects on adjacent properties. The properties are located some distance, the adjacent properties are located some distance from the subject space, and it's bordered by Long Beach Road and Windsor Parkway in this location where the use is proposed. Long Beach Road's to the west and Windsor Parkway's to the north. It's in keeping with the character of the area that is developed along Long Beach Road with a variety of commercial uses and other shopping centers. I'm going to submit a few photographs. I have like 4 or 5 photographs of the center. The first photograph is the specific tenant location where this use is proposed. It's in between Aspen Dental and Metro Physical Therapy, and you all may be very familiar. This building was once the Nathans. Then it became Buffalo Wild Wings, and now it's Aspen Dental, Metro Physical Therapy, and the proposed F45. Thank you. I'm sorry. I took the photographs myself, printed them out, and brought them to the hearing today. And the other photographs of the surrounding properties directly adjacent, so right across Windsor Parkway. To the north is a Dime Savings Bank. To the south is an office building, and across the street is a little strip center of stores, Roslyn Savings Bank, and it's not in the photos, but also a Burger King.
And you're testifying that they accurately depict the current status of the property? Is
Yes.
that correct? So we'll accept those in evidence.
And we request your favorable consideration on the application. If you have any questions on the use, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do I have any questions from the board? If not,
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the hearing be closed, the matter be placed on the decision calendar. Mr. Minerva, you'll be notified by mail of the board's decision once it's rendered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
Two.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? You're welcome. Patrick?
Okay, next we have case 16323, Seaford, JGAP LLC, special exception for place of public assembly and amusement in portion of existing building, restaurant/bar. Variance in off-street parking, also known as 3490 Merrick Road. Mr. Chairman, there are a number of people signed in on this application that I believe also want to speak, so if, with your permission, I'll swear everybody in all at once in the beginning.
Please.
Everybody that's speaking, please stand, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Perfect. Mr. Brown, your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon again, Christian Brown, McLaughlin and Stern, 1122 Franklin Avenue for the applicant.
Good afternoon, Wayne Muller, Robinson and Muller Engineering. Offices at 50 Elm Street, Huntington, New York, for the applicant.
All right, good afternoon again. This is an application to complete interior alterations in a part of a strip shopping center located at 3490 Merrick Road in Seaford, and to convert a former retail space that is 2,456 square feet, formerly a clothing store, into a what we'll call a wine bar. And that requires, according to the building department's new interpretation, it requires both a special permit for the use and a parking variance because of the change in the way that the parking is calculated for the strip center. As I mentioned, this was previously a retail store. It was a clothing store, a women's clothing store that has since gone out of business, so the space is vacant. My client, who's sitting here to my left, and his partners are proposing to convert that same space into a wine bar, by which we mean the concept is it's a bar, but of a higher end, if you will, focus with fine wines, expensive wines, craft beer, and a full liquor array. Food would be limited mostly to just hors d'oeuvres. It is not a sit-down restaurant. It's a place where people can come, as I said, to enjoy a fine glass of wine and have sort of hors d'oeuvre type cheese and crackers and other light, food fare. But beyond that, no meals, not a sit-down place, not a full kitchen. There are 3 other stores in the strip center. Mr. Muller will get into this, but they are a small smoke shop, a tobacco store, a nail salon, and a spa that I believe takes care of people's feet. The nail salon and the spa close at about 8 p.m. on a daily basis, and the smoke shop is open until 10 p.m. My client proposes a limited set of hours for this operation. The bar would be closed on Mondays and Tuesdays entirely. It would be open Wednesday and Thursday from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 5 p.m. to 1 a.m., and Sunday, again, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. As I mentioned, the goal here is to have a more sophisticated, you might say, clientele. This is not aimed at a young crowd with DJs and dancing. We're not requesting a cabaret. We would like to have a jukebox in the bar, and as I said, it's sort of a piano bar model, so the idea is to have a piano inside where there would occasionally be entertainment. but any music that's played will either be on the jukebox or would be entirely acoustic and comply with the limits in the town ordinance on cabaret. So there'll be no amplified music and not more than a piano and guitar type of combination at any time. There is a rear door that faces the residential area that is behind, and that door is for emergencies only and will be kept closed at all times. So there shouldn't be any risk of any kind of noise emanating from this site. And as I mentioned, it's of rather limited hours. If you juxtapose that to an as-of-right use that could go into this 2,500 square feet, you could have a convenience store, any kind of retail that could go in there as of right, could be open 24 hours a day. So the intensity of the use is less than would be true for a whole array of permitted uses. And by the way, and Mr. Mueller will detail this, in large part, the hours that we selected, and particularly the limitation on having only evening hours, is a result of R&M's fine work and their traffic study, because obviously during the daytime, the area is busier, the shopping center is busier, and in an effort not to create any kind of traffic or parking problems, my client has agreed not to be open until 5 p.m. So we believe by limiting it to 5 and after, because the activity at that center declines substantially into the evening hours, the complementary uses work and will be a sufficient safeguard against any traffic or parking problems that would result at earlier hours in the day. As I mentioned, this space is 2,456 square feet. So as retail, it would require, on its own, it would require 12 spaces. Under this calculation, it requires, well, I guess it would require about 11 spaces, and on this calculation, it requires 23.3 spaces, because the building department, well, it's double what's required for retail. In other words, the building department used the 1 per 100 denominator here for the parking requirement for the bar, because it comes out to a higher requirement than using the seating requirement, that based on 56 seats divided by 3, actually, which rarely happens, the higher parking number is based on using the 1 per 100 square foot denominator.
Because people stand and
Correct.
drink rather than sit.
Correct. So in any event, this is the more stringent number, and as Mr. Morrow will tell you, in the aggregate, it's basically a 9-spot swing between the permitted retail and the calculation based upon the restaurant bar use. Total for the center.
Yes.
And I guess that's, we have a total of 28 spaces on site, and 37 are required under this proposed use. And finally, I would say we would, at max, probably on a Saturday, we would have 5 employees. But on other nights, obviously on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, probably have 2 to 3 employees on the slower nights, and they will be asked not to park on the site so as not to take up any of the available spots. So that's the overview of the case. And with that, unless you have any questions for me at this point, I'll have Mr. Mueller talk about his traffic report.
Mr. Brown, what are the maximum number of patrons allowed in the premises?
Do we know the?
56.
Well, it's 50, I asked that same question. I don't know if the building department set an occupancy number for the site, but it's the number of seats that they calculated was 56 seats.
But that was trumped by the 100.
Correct. But I don't know what the legal occupancy that would be posted here by the Public Assembly section will be right now.
Mr. Mueller.
And by the way, I just asked my client, I mean, we'd be willing to live with a number of 60 or 65 people max, not looking to pack people into this place.
Number to limit the occupancy?
Would you agree to a limit of that number? Could you live with a number? What would-
I'm not,
Okay, we'll let you know, but that's
Okay.
the vision that we would have is about that number of people. Again, this is supposed to be a very, a classier atmosphere. It's not a pack 'em in 3 deep at the bar.
got it, thank you.
Mr. Muller, you've previously been qualified as an expert, parking expert, before this board. Have any of the conditions changed with respect to your qualifications since the last time you testified?
No, there have not
If
been any
not,
changes.
then we will qualify you again as an expert to give your opinion.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For the record, I'd like to submit copies of an analysis that we prepared dated April 26, 2023.
We have it. I have it. Maybe.
And just briefly summarize the results of our observations. As indicated by Mr. Brown, and in the call of the meeting, it is proposed to reoccupy a portion of the existing building with a bar restaurant. As depicted on the plans prepared by Kurt Jacobs, there were 2 different parking calculations for the restaurant bar. The first one being by seating, and the second one being by the square footage. The square footage number was higher, so therefore that is what's being used for the purposes of this hearing. As indicated on the plans, a total of 37 parking spaces are required by the town building zone ordinance, and 28 parking spaces are provided on site.
Parking in front yard setback on
Yes.
Willoughby?
Correct,
That was previously approved
correct.
under, do you know what case or?
I do not.
I don't have the search sheet, but yes, I believe it was previously approved. It's never been cited on this application for anything to do with the parking on Willoughby.
It's going to be a long time.
Oh, many more than 5, I would say. I could take a look at the sheet if we have it.
Okay, I'll just continue. So essentially what we did is we performed a parking study of the conditions in and around the subject property to determine what the existing level of parking activity is on-site and in the available on-street parking areas, both on Merrick and also on the Willoughby Avenue, just south of Merrick along the site frontage essentially. And we performed those observations originally in the afternoon on a Friday and on a Saturday. And during those timeframes, what we noticed was that the activity in the area during the peak shopping times was relatively high, and it would be a little bit, I guess, confusing for the individuals to come park there had the applicant been open during the day and it was fully occupied in accordance with the building zone ordinance.
As you go through the counts, can you just refer us to which
Sure.
exhibit?
I haven't gotten there yet. So essentially, based on my discussions with the applicant and Mr. Brown, they've indicated that they would not open during the day, which could have a conflict with the shopping activity within this area on Merrick Road. So what we did was we summarized the parking observations that we prepared on a Friday and a Saturday. Table 1 are the Friday observations, and Table 2 are the Saturday observations. There's a figure in my report called Figure EX1, and what that shows is the specific areas in which we observed the on-street parking and the on-site parking. And then Figure EX2, which is appended to the report, is a summary of all the regulations of the parking activity with the parking areas that we studied. And you can see that there are certain areas on the north side of Merrick Road that have 30-minute parking from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. There's a couple of areas that have 2-hour parking on the south side. There are areas that are unregulated, both on Merrick Road and on Willoughby between Merrick Road into Scala Street. So what we found was that the peak time of parking, both on-street and on-site, occurred at 4:30 PM on Friday, Table 1, the last set of rows all the way to the right. Total on-street, on-site, and on-street, there were 29 vehicles parked with a capacity of 78 vehicles, both on-street and on-site, for an occupancy level of 37%. And what's interesting in this chart is that from 4:30 till you get to 9 o'clock at night, the occupancy drops within the area, and that makes some sense, because you've got the 3 existing uses on the subject property, which is the foot spa, the nail salon, and the smoke shop, and their activity drops as you go further on in the evening, thereby there'll be parking provided on site. Excuse me? Mr. Brown had indicated, I think, that around 8 o'clock.
It's about 8 o'clock for the spa and the nail salon, and 10 PM for the smoke shop.
But again, the smoke shop activity, what we found was people are in and out pretty quick. They grab whatever they're going to grab, they purchase it, and then they get back in their car and leave. In Table 2, which is of the Saturday observations, we found a very similar trend between 4:30 and 9 o'clock, that the parking tends to decrease as you go later on in the evening. Based on our experience with this type of facility, the peak time would generally be, for the facility, would generally be around 8 o'clock at night. And if you look at the total on-street and on-site on Saturday night, there'd be 10 vehicles existing parked at a 78, translating to a 13% occupancy. And on Friday night in Table 1, it's a little bit higher at 8 o'clock. It's 12 vehicles, translating to a 15% occupancy. Also contained in the tables is a segregation of the subject property, excluding the on-street parking. So on-site, again, on Friday at 4:30, we saw 10 vehicles out of 28, translating to a 36% occupancy. And as we went from 4:30 to say 8 o'clock, there were 7 vehicles parked at 8 o'clock, representing a 25% occupancy solely on-site on Friday. And then going to Saturday, the number was a little bit less at 8 o'clock. It was 5 vehicles, translating to an 18% occupancy.
Pardon me, but when you say we're moving to just the on-site, is that the table that says excluding areas A1 and
It's actually 3 columns over. So if you've got the last column
of all surveyed areas, or of?
of the last row on the sheet,
Which of the 2 tables on?
either one, they're both the same. So Table 1, if you look at the table, I'm showing it up here.
I was using table 3.
Oh, okay.
Because it's like a summary.
Yeah, so I'm just going to Table 1 and 2.
We're going back to table 1.
So it would be this column right here.
On the last table, the bottom table.
Yes, and that's the total on-site. So there's a 28 vehicle capacity, and you can see that on Friday, it started at 10 vehicles at 4:30, and then ended up at 7 at 9 o'clock. Could I approach for 1 second? Yes. No?
You can.
Yes, okay, let's clarify.
That's good.
This is tiny. We can't all see.
It's not that bad. You can read it, and you have better eyesight than I do. It's column B. It's column B. You can get a takeout.
Yes, I get that. Thank you, Mr. Mulroy.
Clarification. Clarified the illegible schedules. that he
Sure, so again, in accordance with the building zone ordinance, in my opinion, the peak time is going to occur for the subject bar restaurant at 8 o'clock, at which point on-site on Saturday, there were 5 vehicles parked, so that would leave 23 vacant spaces on site in accordance with the BZO requirements, we need 25. That means that there would be 2 vehicles short, which could easily be accommodated on street. And similarly, on Friday at 8 o'clock, there were 7 vehicles parked. That would translate to 21 vacant spaces on site. We would be 4 vehicles shy, therefore, based on our observations, they would be easily accommodated on street. So therefore, based on the report that we prepared, our observations of the parking conditions in and around the subject property, we believe that the granting of this bar restaurant with the small parking variance that's requested by the applicant will not create any parking problems in and around the subject area. And one thing I would like to point out, and based on my discussions with the applicant and my own experience to some extent, is some of the patrons to and from this facility will travel via Uber and Lyft. They may decide not to drive. The calculations that we're relying on assume that all the patrons to the facility would drive, and that would tend to further reduce the parking requirements because obviously with Uber and Lyft, they're just getting dropped off. They're not bringing their vehicles to the subject property, and then they're going on their merry way.
You know what? When do you think the ITE is going to have a factor for that? Because that is really the way it is right now. You know, there's no ITE for that, right?
Absolutely not.
They really need it.
No question.
It's time, like, because this is it's a real consideration that we're trying to deal with, but, you know, the ITE factor would be useful in that regard.
I think that's coming. I mean,
You should make a suggestion.
well, I think. Oh, I'm sorry. The ITE
Institute.
is and I'll answer the question, the Institute of Transportation Engineers, or ITE is the acronym. Essentially, they provide statistics for parking activity generated by various different land uses. They do not have one for this specific land use. However, that's why we're referring to the building zone ordinance as what we would assume to be the level of parking associated with the facility, which would be 25 vehicles parked.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but basically it's I know you get that, what he said, but for example, like if we all thought there would be this many cars or whatever, or this much traffic going through an intersection, they have all kinds of studies that, from which they create multiples. It could be a percentage or whatever, where, okay, if you got a suburban, I don't know, restaurant of this style, even though the square footage might say you're gonna have this many people parked here, it might say you gotta add to it like 1.1, or it might be a 0.8, but it's universally respected as a real engineering tool, so we always like to hear that in addition to the other information. So, I mean, we have a lot of this Uber, Lyft stuff we have to try and understand, but ITE factor would help us to sort of gauge it.
The standards that the ITE puts out are not location-specific.
Another thing I would like to point out just before I wrap up is that there is a traffic signal existing at the corner of Merrick Road and Willoughby Avenue. The signal provides both crosswalks and pedestrian push buttons and don't walk and walk signs. So if someone was to say park on the north side of Merrick Road, they could easily cross to the south side to access the subject development at the signalized intersection of Merrick Road and Willoughby Avenue. So there wouldn't be just people indiscriminately crossing Merrick Road to get to the facility. They could just walk down the sidewalk, push the button, wait for the light to turn green, watch the walk signal, the flashing don't walk, and then cross to the south side of the road. So based on all these factors, I believe that there would be more than adequate parking provided on the site, and it's from a traffic pedestrian safety perspective. There's sidewalks on both sides of Merrick and also on Willoughby, and there's a traffic signal located at the location that has the proper pedestrian features incorporated into it to safely cross people back and forth across the roadway. And that's my testimony.
That's really our case. I would just add that, as you were saying, the ITE, the other virtue it has is it's based on real data. It's not, theoretical estimates. These are counts that people have taken over the years, so to speak, at actual places. So you're absolutely right that to have the data reflect accurately, there has to be some consideration taken into the use of the car services, which have become far more ubiquitous.
We're trying to assess how that would mitigate
and I think my client runs another establishment in Wanto, I believe it is, and it's a bar, and a heavy number of the patrons obviously are now coming by Uber, Lyft, these car services. So the amount of traffic, just by common sense and logic, that will be driven here is lesser probably than even these counts reflect, because they're a little bit out of date in that regard. And so this is the classic, strip center situation where a retail use could go in there as of right. A convenience store could go in there as of right. It could have as many hours as it wishes, unregulated. Here we're proposing a very limited use. We have a targeted, specific business model. We're willing to live within those limitations. This is not a cabaret. It's not a dance bar. It's not geared to a young demographic that's looking for a long night out. Given the restrictions on hours and on music and so forth that I mentioned, and Mr. Muller's data, we feel it's a meritorious application. It would be a good use for the site, get rid of a vacant eyesore.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
the Wantor facility that your client operates, is it a facility similar to the one that is proposed here?
I'll
Is it
have
a
him, I
piano
think
bar?
it's a little more of a pub model than
Okay.
this would be a little, as I said, more of a higher end type of establishment.
Okay. All right, that concludes
And
your
then that's our presentation.
The objectors.
Chairman, wait, I have a question.
Oh, wait.
Mr. Mueller.
Sorry.
You said how many spaces are available on site?
Well, it varies depending on
Depends
the time of
and date.
Oh, okay, no, but how many spaces are there?
28.
28, okay. Those spaces, do they include the spaces behind? Is this a private home? Yes. Are the spaces that you're counting, is that behind the private home? You have a right to park there?
Apparently, the home, this, obviously, my client is a tenant, as are the other businesses.
No, I know.
The home is part of this lot,
Yes.
same lot. So the parking configuration that you see serves the shopping center, and the same landlord, as part of the same lot, also owns that house.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, Mr. Brown, real quick. So the site plan shows the existing one-family, no change, but then it sort of attached says two-story frame building. Is that part of that same home, or is that some other thing?
I think that's just a description of the house.
Oh, because it's divided, you see.
Yeah, I guess it's a two-family house.
Or one-family, two-story, okay.
Oh, maybe I get it. It's a one-family, two-story house, yes. Right, yes. No, there's just one house on there.
Before the objectors speak, if you agree with anything that a prior person has said, you can simply get up and say, I agree with the person who spoke before me. If you have anything else to add, you're certainly free to add whatever you wish. Okay? To the podium. Just one at a time.
Of pictures.
Okay. Name and address for the record.
My name is Michael Lentino. I live at 66 Forest Avenue. I'm speaking on behalf of my 82-year-old mother-in-law who lives behind here. We have...
She's in the house on the
She is
property?
in the- no, not the house. The house they're speaking about is a rental. The
Okay.
person that owns that whole strip mall owns that rental property too, and we've had issues over the years and over the years. This man spoke very eloquently. He keeps calling it a wine bar. I know the establishment he already owns, and I knew the previous owner, and I know the clientele. They keep saying, well, are they going to be serving liquor?
Yes, there'll be a full liquor bar, wine,
Okay,
and beer.
You kept saying wine bar. You never mentioned liquor, okay? The issue is, you cannot, I've done every aspect of construction. I've seen the blueprints. They're stating that they have 56 seating. Well, if you look at those blueprints, there's a hell of a lot of room for people to be standing up, okay? You're gonna tell me, you already mentioned that the fire marshal, what's the number that the fire marshals put on? You're gonna tell me somebody who's running a business trying to make money is gonna say, nah, we're at 60 people, we gotta turn you away. Not gonna happen. Never seen it happen in a bar on Long Island yet. There's too much standing room, okay? If you look at the the east side of the stores, I believe there's 9 parking spots there. When you park up against that wall, you may have 8 feet from the back bumper of that car to the street.
Which ones are your, I want to follow where the spots to which you refer.
Willoughby Avenue, where the parking spots are up against Willoughby Avenue, okay? Now, they keep, he keeps referring to, well, you know, you let retail people do this. Well, yeah, you let retail, now you're bringing alcohol into the mix, and you're bringing food. We already have a pestilence problem. I have pictures of homeless people. I don't know if the owner of the property is here. He has shown nothing but disrespect and disregard to the people that live behind this property, and not once have any of these people ever mentioned Poe Court. I don't know if any of you have documentation there that shows the streets. Okay, Poe Court already is a hazard because everybody that pulls in off of Merrick Road, it instantly goes into a right-hand bend that's very tight, and everybody uses Poe Court as a turnaround. What are they gonna do about their deliveries? Okay, they haven't mentioned that the 3 other stores, how many employees do they have? So you have 56 seats, or 32 parking spots. Where are all these people gonna go? It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna be a safe deal. People have already been hit there, okay, by people backing out. I have pictures here, if you would like to see these pictures.
Linda, Mr. Brown, and just while we're doing that, did you take these photos?
I took these photos myself.
And when did you do that?
This year, the whole dated on the back, this summer.
Do they fairly and accurately represent what they purport to represent?
Yes. There is nothing but garbage, and they also haven't mentioned dumpsters. Where are the dumpsters gonna go? They already have 3 dumpsters back there.
Taking up some of those parking lots.
Yes, okay?
May I just ask one question? Mr. Brown?
Yes.
He's talking about things that have happened in the past, and pardon my ignorance. Did your client operate something else there now?
No.
I mean, before, or is he
No.
just now, or have you operated something here previously?
No, he's a prospective tenant in the site.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the other point being, now I'm getting off track, is do you people have a layout of the streets? Do you see the curve I'm talking about that goes into Poe Court? Everybody in Poe Court is going to be affected. They've never once, they've mentioned Merrick Road, they've mentioned Willoughby Avenue. They have never mentioned Poe Court because that is the easiest. That's where all your turnarounds are gonna be. That's where people are gonna wanna park. You got kids in there playing. It is nonstop already. It's a danger zone as it is. We've had noise issues, and I cannot be 100% specific on the date, but in the date, I'm guesstimating in 2006, I've already been here at Night Court with my mother, okay, because my mother's whole backyard is lined by Seaford Car Wash, which we are inundated by noise. Excuse me? Seaford Car Wash is right next door to these stores. My mother-in-law's backyard, 3/4 of her property, okay, is backed up by commercial property.
Yeah, so you understand, yeah, the back? Okay, okay.
Can I come up there and show you? said, like I said, in 2006, I can't be, it could be 2006, 2005, we went to night court about this. They went after the car wash, they fined the car wash, they went after this gentleman, and if I'm correct, the car wash and the property that these gentlemen are talking about, okay? Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and they fined them, those dumpsters aren't supposed to be back there. And we were told, and we cut a deal with them, saying that he was supposed to upkeep the fence.
The property owner.
Mr. Patel, no. Mr. Patel, take the car wash out of the inclusion. Okay, so everything we're talking about is the strip stores that they're talking about. We came to an agreement that he was supposed to upkeep the fence. He never upkept the fence. He was supposed to move the dumpsters. He never moved the dumpsters. Literally, my mother-in-law, she has cancer. She's been there for, 52 years? You look out her backyard, you see this parking lot. What happens when people go to bars and they drink alcohol? You're going to tell me there's not going to be people back there smoking and hanging out? We've had issues like this already, and it's nonstop. And
Okay, hold on. Let's just take your issues one at a time.
Okay.
First of all, I'm quite confident that, the board would require the proper fence be erected, kept in good condition, and maintained.
He just did it
Hold
last
on.
minute.
Hold on,
Okay?
but let's address the issues you have to the extent that we can, just for us to think about what is being proposed. The dumpster, I'm not seeing here on the site plan, but...
Look at my pictures. I have 3 pictures of 3 dumpsters back
Okay.
there.
But so the fence, the dumpster, and it is sort of standard for this board that when we consider any sort of establishment like this, we usually are particularly when, as is often the case in the town of Hempstead, there's 100 feet of business and residential. We try at least, and I think we do, always address the issue of you're not spilling out your fill in the blank onto the neighbors in the back. You're not coming out and smoking cigarettes and having seating and all the rest of that. So we are hearing you as it relates to the fence, the dumpster, and overflow or any kind of use behind, because we don't allow that as a standard in these proceedings. So we do hear that, so let's keep going on what other issues you have.
Okay, but the other issue I had was, like I said, back in 2005, 2006, an Inspector Strawgate, I doubt she even works anymore, she might even be retired, okay? I know for a fact, unless somebody has changed, if I'm correct, that this property changed hands in 2014, okay? The strip mall. Before that, there is a piece of property back there in that parking lot that is zoned residential, okay? And you know what? We kind of ate it because they were supposed to keep up on the fence, and there's pictures of bushes in there. He went out, ripped out the bushes, so we did not have to look at Mr. Patel, the owner of the property, okay? That Inspector Strawgate's exact words were that they were fining them for extended usage into residential zoning, meaning there in that back parking lot, there is a piece of residential property that should not be used for what they are using it for. Basically, the bottom line is what I'm gonna get at. A, you're gonna make it dangerous, but you are gonna take, there's gonna be no value to our home anymore. There's gonna be no value, there is no peace. My mother-in-law can't even open up her windows on a summer day just from the noise already. Okay, and like I said, I can't put into enough. Now you're gonna add alcohol to the issue, and they're talking about Ubers coming up?
So the current retail operation, or what part of what's there, which is predominantly retail, is creating such a noise problem that she can't open it now? Are you able to ascertain?
That's the car wash. I'll be straight up with you. That's the car wash. But if you look at my pictures, this is what she's looking at when she looks over her fence.
Right, but so I just want to, the only way we can try to address these issues is to know what they are. So the noise Right now, the noise, as far as you can tell, is the car wash. So that's not something we could solve with this situation either way. As it relates to what is currently predominantly retail, nail salon, whatever else, which of those items are causing any kind of, whether it's noise, I get the fence, the dumpster, and we don't want people out back making more noise, but to the extent the way it's currently operating is causing any kinds of those issues other than what you described to me. Because if you're already having a big noise problem from the retail that's there, I mean, that's not right.
From the dumpsters. They come in at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning with the truck, and they lift them and they dump them over the top. It sounds like a bomb going off. And it started off with one dumpster. Now there's 3 back there.
Back there on the subject property.
Yes, in the back parking lot. And as far as noise goes, people who were renting out that house had a band that we used to have to call the police on every single night. And he's saying he's setting up a piano and a jukebox, and there's a stage set up. You can't tell me sooner or later he's not gonna have a band coming in there and playing.
He's not asking for permission to do that.
Well-
If that were to happen, if we approve this, and I have no idea what will happen, he's not asking for a cabaret. He's not allowed to have multiple musicians in an amplified fashion. That's not what he's asking for.
Listen, I don't know if this holds any water with you guys. I know your town of Hempstead. I live in town of Oyster Bay. I live on Forest Avenue, and we went through the same exact thing. They opened up a bar up the block from us, a bar restaurant, okay, called Smuggler Jack's. And they lied through their teeth about what they were gonna do because they were on the water. You go past that, or even, I'll guarantee you right now, it is so overrun and just so mobbed with people coming by water and people coming by land that every single person that lives in that vicinity has to come out with a cone to protect the front so they have a parking spot from their house.
Well, you should know that if they're violating any provision or condition of whatever grant they were given, you could report that, because those conditions, whatever they are, they're required to comply with them.
Well, you call town of Oyster Bay because they said one thing and then they did another. And they got away with it. And this is the guy that owns Patty's Loft.
I don't wanna
And
get into
it's just like, what I don't understand is how something like this goes through without going to the neighborhood first. You're going through and you built this place knowing you don't have enough parking. And now that it's, what, 3/4 complete, almost complete, now you're asking for permission or a change in the codes of parking? Like I said, the place is absolute with Poe Court. Nobody is mentioning Poe Court. Poe Court, where are the trucks gonna go? Where are they gonna turn around? Where is food delivery gonna go? Where are the liquor stores, the liquor trucks and the size of the beer trucks gonna go? They are gonna use Poe Court as a turnaround. Not only are we gonna get it in the back, we're gonna get it in the front. There is no quality of life now. This man, that Mr. Patel that owns this property, has shown absolute nothing but disrespect and disregard for the community before these guys even came into effect, even when it was a clothing store. And that's the bottom line. We have rats, you think we live in New York City, the size of cats running around, it's insane. And now, like I said, now you're gonna add food into the mix. It's gonna be a lose-lose for the people that live there and pay their taxes, bottom line, and are trying to raise their children. And that's about the best I can explain it. It's just, if he's explaining it as a professional parking spot person, listen, I know basic math. You have 53 spots, not including standing area, inside the restaurant, and you have, what, 32 parking spots? And you're not including employees? Where are these people gonna park? It's overrun. It is one of the most dangerous places there is. I'm gonna go because there's plenty of other people right now that I know they wanna speak their mind.
Thank you.
So he and I are together. It's my mother's home. I have a question that,
Name and address.
oh, I'm sorry, Kimberly Sutton, 66 Forest Avenue, Massapequa, also 2316 Poe Court. Exactly what he was saying is, my mom's side yard is shares the fence, shares the property line. One question I have is the lighting. Nobody's mentioned the lighting. So there's all these parking spots that they're talking about. There's already 3 dumpsters taking up a bunch of those spots. So you can minus those. I'm gonna guess, as a bar restaurant, they're gonna need even another dumpster. Where's that gonna go? Probably taking up another spot. But what about lighting? Are they gonna be putting additional lighting back there? Is that lighting gonna be flooding into my mother's house? Nobody's brought that up, and that's a question I would like to have answered.
No, we have no plans to change the lighting on the premises. Again, we're just a tenant here. We weren't here before. We haven't taken occupancy. We're not making any physical alterations to the outside of the building, solely inside. So we don't have any plans to do anything to the lighting, but we're happy to convey any of that information to the landlord if there's some request that we can convey to alleviate any problems that the neighbors are having.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, John LaSala, 2313 Willoughby Avenue, Seaford. All right, so I've lived there 37 years. When I moved into my house, which is in direct line of sight to the property that's in question, there was a town of Hempstead yard right on the corner. So that would be the southeast corner of Willoughby Avenue and Merrick Road. What the town of Hempstead did was they put no parking signs all over our block because there's so many guys and women who worked at that location. We had no way, we were blocked constantly. So that once that went away, once the town sold that property, there's now a mall, strip mall there, which has PSEG and an Optimum store in it. All right, and they have a private parking lot. There is no parking on the southeast side of Willoughby Avenue from Merrick Road to Tuscalva. You cannot park there. If anyone parks there, Willoughby Avenue becomes one lane north and south. Now, the gentleman who did the parking study did it on a Friday. We don't know what the weather was, but I could tell you any Friday from about 3:30 till about 7 o'clock, try to get off Willoughby Avenue in one traffic cycle light. Impossible, because the traffic on Merrick Road is so heavy eastbound. Additionally, the west side, so the southwest corner of Willoughby Avenue and Merrick Road, we don't actually have a sidewalk. We have a parking apron. It's not a flat surface, it's an actual slant. I drive a pickup truck. Most people have SUVs. When you park in those 9 spots that are on the southeast corner adjacent to this building, there is no sidewalk. You walk in Merrick Road, in Willoughby Avenue, in order to cross Merrick Road. You take your life in your hands there, because everyone's trying to beat the traffic coming towards them. They're turning onto Willoughby Avenue southbound. I invite anyone to go there on a Friday afternoon and stand in the street for 2 minutes and see if you survive, all right? The building in question, the residential building that's part of this whole property, is an illegal rental. Right now, there are at least 3 people living in there. That means there are at least 3 vehicles that are there. So that's 3 less spots along with the dumpsters back there. They're saying they're gonna have their patrons park back there in the pitch darkness. So if they're not gonna add lighting, I don't believe that part at all. The smoke shop that he talked about closing at 10, once again, go there any Friday or Saturday night at 11 o'clock, and that place is wide open. The people who park there park on Willoughby Avenue. They don't pull up in front of Merrick Road. They turn onto Willoughby Avenue and park in those 9 spots there. Those spots will not be available for anyone who wants to go to any establishment that's put there in the evening. That smoke shop is way too busy, and it's there till at least 11 p.m. And like I said, I invite anyone to go there and take a look on any Friday night, and you'll see that it's open, right? We have 800 residences from Neptune Avenue to Cedar Street, from Merrick Road south to the water. There are 2 streets, Neptune and Willoughby, that have traffic signal lights. That's the only way you're getting onto Merrick Road nowadays, especially if you want to go westbound, is to go to a traffic signal light. So we already have plenty of traffic on Willoughby Avenue because you cannot get off on Cedar Street. It's impossible unless you take your life in your hands. The other issue, too, with that parking, I referenced the 9 spots along the building. Everyone pulls head in. Now they have to back into the street in order to get out. They're not going to be able to back up to go northbound to leave onto Merrick Road. So as My neighbor said they're gonna be backing out, if they can get out, going down Willoughby Avenue and U-turning in Polk Court. There are 6 little kids that live on Polk Court. They play in the street, they play all over there. And I have to worry about these kids getting run over every day. It's bad enough that we have the businesses that are on Merrick Road, east of us, they're delivery trucks, they come off of 135, they come westbound on Merrick Road, they go south on Willoughby, and they turn around in Polk Court in order to go back to go eastbound on Merrick Road. Listen, it's the way the traffic flows, I understand, but it all falls on the residences there. We're sitting there watching this all day and every day. Someone goes 2 days and does a traffic study. Like I said, I dare you, any July, any June, Friday night, and you try to get out of Willoughby Avenue in one traffic light. Now, there is no parking on Merrick Road from the corner of Willoughby Avenue and Merrick going east until you get all the way past that strip store. There's no parking going west either, because it's the strip mall with their apron, and then you have the car wash, and then you have a service station. On the north side, it's private parking in a parking area for another store, which, by the way, there is an empty restaurant less than 300 feet from this location, sitting in that parking lot, which has plenty of parking. Why not put it there? It's empty. Vacant, you have a vacant restaurant right there. Instead of going through all this and worry about impacting us, because that's what you said, it's going to overflow to us. Well, this is a direct overflow, whereas if you go over there, you have plenty of parking. There's 100 and some odd spots there. So if you don't want it to impact us, you can't allow this because they don't have the parking. They don't have the parking for the people that use it now, and they won't have the parking for the people who may come and for the employees. And I thank you for your time.
Charles Marino. I own the property at 2314 Poe Court, which shares the longest property line with the property at issue here. As it stands now, and I know the first gentleman talked about the dumpsters, as it stands now, the dumpsters are often not closed. It attracts large amounts of vermin, ranging from squirrels, mice, rats, opossums. I've seen raccoons during the daytime coming out of those dumpsters, and that is with only food garbage coming from the employees in the stores there. The current plan shows the dumpsters adjacent to my property, essentially adjacent to my front yard, adjacent to 2316 Poe Court's house, and directly adjacent to the rental property. So the plan is to use what is essentially a restaurant dumpster immediately adjacent to 3 residences. If they were to move them to somewhere else, it would eliminate probably 4 parking spots. So if they were to move to somewhere that it wouldn't create a nuisance for the neighbors, you'd be talking about eliminating the spots directly behind the building, eliminating spots along Willoughby, which are undersized, and the number of them that have appeared on the plans changed between the first and second plans. Those spots are from the building about 15 feet, and there's about 2 feet of space between the parking header and the building itself. So those spots are smaller than just about any car that's going to park there. So as it stands now, the sidewalk along Willoughby, which is busy with kids on bikes, and not just until 5 o'clock. Older kids ride bikes up and down there regularly. People walking, and the sidewalk is blocked by the back ends of cars. I've had cars back out and almost hit me. I know that some of my neighbors have actually been hit by cars backing out of there, and they want to add alcohol to the equation, in addition to the fact that the first plan that was submitted just had made-up parking spots. Now we have a combination of undersized spots that weren't reflected on the first plan, which was from the early 90s, which I think predated I believe it's a 21-foot minimum spot depth, but it appears that sometime after the mid-1990s change in the town code, These additional spots were just painted on without approval. The description of the traffic light is not correct because it only provides a north-south crossing light and not an east-west crossing light. And the only time that somebody backing out of one of those spots is able to back out with a red light in both directions is the couple of seconds of hang time where it's red in both directions. I've seen accidents and near accidents happen with cars pulling out into traffic. And you're talking about cars making a right-hand turn or a left-hand turn off of Merrick Road directly behind these parking spots as it stands. So I've seen close calls and accidents during the time that they're talking about being open. The smoke shop, I don't know what the sign in the door says, but I've seen them open at midnight. And I also have some pictures of cars in the parking spots along Willoughby. I took them myself, I printed them myself, and they're true and accurate representations of the parking situation there and the image that I took. You can take a look. They show normal-sized cars hanging out over into the sidewalk area. So I'm not sure how many of those spots actually are legal and how many were just painted on without a plan being filed. But if you were to move the existing dumpsters plus one or two more onto Willoughby to keep them away from the residents, you would be blocking most of those spots, and you wouldn't be able to park cars where those dumpsters are because it would interfere with the spots that currently appear along the west edge of the property that borders with 2316 and the car wash, 2316 Poe Court. So with all of that having been said, in order to put these dumpsters in a legal location, you'd need a new submission showing that where these dumpsters are going to go so they're not directly on two neighboring property lines and directly behind the rental home that's on the property where they're trying to make this change. So I would imagine you would have increased amounts of vermin and smell entering the neighboring properties, including my own. But with respect to the first gentleman who spoke, his mother-in-law's house they were built in the early 1950s, and her house is in its original location, and it's only a few feet from where these dumpsters are now. So I think the bedrooms in that house will be about 6 feet from a restaurant dumpster, which will probably infiltrate that home. I would expect to smell it in my front yard, in my garage, and probably the house if we added this type of facility there. And I don't think there's a realistic plan. I think the spots are undercounted, and I think several of them are illegal. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kelly Grosser. I live at 2320 Poe Court. I don't really have much to say other than the whole parking issue and the U-turns going on. I have 2 little kids. They play in the court all day, every day. And we tried to put in for a no U-turn sign there, and they said that we got denied because if there was a no U-turn sign, we would be breaking the law every day we came into the court, because I guess our houses are in a U, so we would be making a U-turn, so they denied it when we put that in place. I also was one of the people that got hit by a car on Willoughby Avenue. I flipped over the car, it was coming into the parking lot. It's just a very, very dangerous spot. If there was a lot of parking, I would say, hey, go for it. But the fact that there's not going to be a lot of parking is going to end up them coming into Poe Court and parking all along the residential area. And I don't know if anybody's even said that, but the parking is going to be really the issue. It's where are they going to start parking? There's Dirty Taco, it's down the street. All these people didn't come and speak about the parking issue, and it became a very popular spot. And these people now have parking on their entire street all the way down. And we just don't need to have that. If there was a spot that had a huge parking lot, I say go for it. But right now, like where there are other places in Wantaw, amazing, great bar. However, it's by a train station. There's 80,000 spots there because there's a McDonald's spot. There's all the parking from the train station. They're not in a residential spot. There's no houses right there. We're backing up against this place. And I would say, would you guys want that?
Good afternoon. My name is Nicole Trikoukas. I live at 3554 Tuscala Street, 7 houses down from the corner on the south side. My grandmother was hit by a car, shattered her hip. It's a very dangerous corner. Regarding the average daily traffic, it's 34,715 cars per Ripco Real Estate. This gives you the area demographics and the population density, and I would like to submit that into evidence if I can. Thank you.
Want to show that to Mr. Brown?
I have concerns with the parking lot garbage. I have concerns with the connected house garbage that has a rental on apartments.com. I have concerns about pedestrian caution signs on the building, 2 of 3 of which have graffiti on them.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
could you slow down a
Sure.
bit because the
Parking lot
this is being
garbage.
taken
Thank you.
down.
I'm just nervous. Thank you.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Be nervous a little bit slower.
I will try to. Thank you. Parking lot garbage, the connected house garbage, which is rented on apartments.com, that shares a common driveway and has no separation. The pedestrian caution signs of the building, 2 of the 3 have graffiti on them, and I have pictures that I took and I printed them out for you. The building conditions, the back of the building is peeling and the top of the building has missing shingles. The neighboring streets, Wyanett, Tuscala Street, Willoughby, have potholes in them that we've struggled to get them repaired. The Seaford Harbor population are in flood zones with only 2 traffic lights, according to the U.S. Census. And on Neptune Avenue, which is the other traffic light, we have a police station and a fire station, and only 2 safe ways to get out for 2,800 residents and 1,150 homes, according to Google and the U.S. Census, and I have the block numbers on the census. Other activities on the southeast corner across the street include body shop, car storage, and abandoned cars, and parking already for the southwest corner, patrons and customers, because there's not enough room, so they go across the street. We already called up those 2 tenants, Optimum and PSE&G, and complained about the cars that are being stored there by the body shops.
Excuse me, Stephanie, can you get are you getting all of this? Okay,
I'll hand it in. I have it written down.
It's
I'll
not
go
easy.
slower. Sorry, sir.
that's okay.
Other activities on the southeast corner and the southwest corner parking lot, so the entire corner of Willoughby Avenue and Merrick Road on the south side, involve multiple car switching or multiple cars pulling in, parking, drivers switching into the different cars and pulling out. Residents spoke directly recently with Town of Hempstead Building Inspector Bob Steppe regarding confusion regarding 2 building permits. The sign in the window, permit 224840 by the same applicant and architect, and then this new one, permit 227237. Residents learned that the wrong building inspector was assigned to the southwest corner and that the inspections were marked complete when no inspections took place for the permit before, permit 224840. Inspector Bob Steppe switched himself back to being the inspector and now has marked the inspections as active for interior alterations retail store, which must be the tenant after what a girl wants and before these guys by 2 months. Residents have questions and concerns regarding these 2 building permits, the connected rental house to this commercial property, 1 liquor store with a license that never existed, it must be invisible, and the DBAs of another liquor establishment seeking to do business on the southwest corner of 3490 Merrick Road and 2294 Willoughby Avenue in Seaford. I have a list of my questions which concern why the inspector was switched and not properly assigned for the permit 2 months before, permit 224840, and why no inspections took place and why they were marked complete. Mr. Bob Steppe said, I'm the inspector now and they're marked as active. So someone's doing interior alteration retail store in that space 2 months prior. We already went over the dumpster stuff. I want to know why the site plans, I don't know if you're allowed to submit someone else's site plans, but it looked kind of similar to 11-1901. I noticed that the architect's stamp changed. I have the architect's stamp from the town of Riverhead, which is publicly available on Google from the town of Riverhead, NewYork.gov. And I'd like to know why the architect's stamp changed for both permit 224840 and 227237. And I don't understand the math on the architectural drawings either. I don't know how we get to 56 seats. I don't know if these are interim plans or a final filing set. I'm very confused. Could you please help us? Is this the correct architect's stamp or not? I have other examples from permit 10850 that show something else. And then I'm kind of confused why there's a quick corner liquor store that has a license on this corner that never existed. Does anyone ever see a liquor store on that corner? I'm so confused. This is the one where the smoke zone is, at Orchid Foot Spa and the nail place. Okay, so someone has a liquor license for a couple of months there. Also, the DBAs of JGAP differ from their liquor license, which says X's Lounge, and the DBA on the New York State Department of Corporations website, which says Exposure. So what is the DBA of the company? What is the legal address? Because when I ordered the legal address from New York State, it points to a strip club in Baldwin. So I'm very confused. And I'm very confused about who owns what bar, because I met the owners of Ridgewood, and in the paper it said it's 3 retired police officers. So I don't know who owns what bar, what's going on, and why there's an active permit in the window for an interior alteration retail store, but now we're doing a bar restaurant by the same applicant and by the same architect with a different stamp. Can someone explain all this stuff? And why there's a liquor store that seems to be invisible on the corner? I don't know who to go to, and I'm afraid for my life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I submit this?
Sure, for whatever the board chooses to, whatever weight the board wishes to give it. I have
No
no
objection.
objection, subject to its general relevance, which the board can determine.
Hello. I'll make this brief because I pretty much agree with everybody else.
Your name and your
Joan-
address? Yeah.
Joan LaSala. I live at 2313 Willoughby Avenue. My house does view this location. Yes, a few things that we've all been trying to explain, and you as the Town of Hempstead Board of Appeals, this is what you do for a living. We're sharing this location, okay? As residents, right here, we have always shared it with retail operations. We've had our issues with those. We have it right now with the smoke shop that's there. We all pick up garbage on our lawns every day and vape pipes that are thrown out of cars. We all have to keep in mind that what's being asked here is, first of all, a zoning change to a retail establishment. Secondly, that there really isn't enough parking. That is a big issue. That there is overlap. If these other businesses that are active businesses are open and he's opening at 5 o'clock, well, where's everybody going to park? Where are the employees parking that show up to the bar, restaurant to start getting things ready? I'm guessing they're going to come at 4 or 3 o'clock. What about the fact that we have, you know, the smoke shop that has cars that park on that side block on Willoughby Avenue, those 9 spots that everybody's talking about? And what about the fact that we're introducing liquor and wine into our neighborhood? Okay, and what about the fact that this is such a small, ridiculously weird location for a bar restaurant when there are so many other locations in the area? If you like our area so much, there are so many well-suited, well-zoned places. So I just don't understand why this location. I also don't see how it's possible, even if you counted all the spots or got a variance, you'd still have overflow. There would be overflow in our neighborhood, in front of my house. We all take very good care of our homes. It's bad enough that we have to go outside every morning and pick up smoke shop debris. I mean, why should we have people who, you know, I'm very worried about, you know, you think everybody's going to use an Uber? You know, you've got people who are going to leave there with alcohol in their system. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. So I really ask you to consider this very strongly. We want to keep the suburban nature of our neighborhood, just the way the petition that's going around from Supervisor Clavin and everybody to try to keep Long Island suburban. So that's what we want too. This is not the place for it. This should remain a retail location. Thank you.
Someone else.
I promise I'll be quick. I promise. My name is Margaret Grubb. I'm president of the Seaford Chamber of Commerce. I came in support of this wine bar coming into our town. I know you're all upset, but we cannot afford to have empty stores in our town. I'm trying very hard to get every single retail space, bar space, and there are plenty of bars in Seaford on Merrick Road, not just theirs. There are worse ones than what you're talking about with the wine bar coming in. So in support of this, Seaford's Chamber of Commerce stands behind them 100%. And my board does also, because I did speak to them about it yesterday. Thank you.
You're up last, sir. Maybe. Not quite.
My name's Alan Benner. I live on the corner of Willoughby and Tuscala. The house is on Tuscala, but I have a Willoughby address, okay? Now, everybody's okay?
Excuse me, ladies at the rear, if you want to discuss it, please do so outside. Go ahead, sir,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Now, they're discussing the east side of the building, which is the part of the building that faces Willoughby, okay?
Correct.
On that side, the sidewalk, driveway, on that wall, there's 3 or 4 signs stating, please be careful when you back out. Every one of those signs has been graffitied, spray painted, and destroyed, okay? Now, on the very corner, you'll see it on the pictures that he has, on that corner of Willoughby and Merrick Road, there are 4 or 5 steel poles with concrete in them. The reason they put those poles in were because people were coming across, cutting through, and driving right through onto Willoughby, okay? That's the reason that those poles are there, and the reason that the signs were put up was so nobody was gonna be killed backing out of that, okay? Okay? And I've seen it since then. They came here for the, across the street where the town had it. They did everything the way it was supposed to be done with the parking lot, no problem. We still have problems with people parking along Willoughby because they park in the strip mall and they come walking out. Sometimes they have sales or whatever they're doing, it comes back. And it just becomes, a very problem with parking, and they always did. And when you have school buses coming down Willoughby or Tuscala making that turn onto Merrick Road, you're talking about, it could be 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes on a light for 2 buses, and then people are still waiting. So you have a problem with that. I go, the noise doesn't affect me as much as the people on Poe Court, because they hear all that, okay? And eventually I know I'm gonna hear it, and eventually I know when they start parking, they're gonna be there. Number 2, the big thing is, okay, you're saying you're gonna give them a permit to serve alcohol, okay? Now, when they get that license from the state of New York, if I'm not mistaken, they can open at 8 o'clock in the morning and close at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then at 4 and 4:30, everybody has to be out of the establishment. So once they open, he can run it the way he wants. He can do whatever he wants. You can't stop him once he starts operating like that, and once you give him that permit. I'm telling you, just check with the liquor authority. They will tell you that. The minute he can open at 8 and he can close at 4. And he does that, he has it in the other place too, okay? That's it. And it's a safety reason, but...
Just to answer the last comment you
Okay.
made. Sir? Okay, I'm sorry. To answer the last comment you made, they offered certain hours. And if this board were to grant their application, their hours of operation would be restricted to what they said.
Oh, they did,
on
okay.
that-
Okay, now...
And I'm not saying we're going to grant it,
No,
I'm just
you're right.
saying.
Okay, now...
Okay?
Okay, now, let's get back to what they said. Also, March 1st, when we had the first meeting down in the other building, okay, Mr. McKevitt, who was the lawyer, said he would get back in touch with me, he would give you all the information, we will be notified, okay? Since that date, I have been notified, nothing was mailed to the house. He's got a ton of pictures over there that was, I assume, was supposed to be sent out to the people that were going against it, and nothing, no notification. I called the office on Monday and got a voicemail to Mr. McKevitt, who was the lawyer at the time, okay? Yesterday, I called again, and they said, oh, no. He called back saying, oh, I'm off the case, call this number, and the number was for the building permits here. So then I called and I said, is that still on? They go, yes. They never notified me, and I signed that form on March 1st that they were supposed to be notified. They didn't send anything, they didn't notify me. If I didn't stay on the phone and keep calling, I wouldn't have been notified.
I believe the hearing was scheduled for today.
Excuse me, sir?
I believe the hearing was scheduled, at that time, the hearing was scheduled for today.
It was scheduled, but when we were leaving, the lawyer said, we'll straighten it out, we're gonna try and straighten it out, not have it, but I will inform you of anything coming up. And they never did.
Okay, thank
Because
you.
I see a bunch of photos over there that,
You had your chance, ma'am. Sir?
My name is Joseph Healy. I live at 2326 Maple Avenue in Seaford. My neighbors pretty much covered everything. I don't believe you're going to open a bar and throw people out or count heads. I don't think it's good for the neighborhood. I don't think it's good for my grandson running around there riding a bike. And I've seen enough people backing out of that place, causing accidents or near accidents, to see that it's just not a good spot for this.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Janet Harmon. I live at 2318 Poe Court. I just had a question. Who enforces the hours of an establishment if they're supposed to close at a certain time?
Well, okay, so if there is, in any case, if there is a grant and it restricts hours, and if the owner or the proprietor is not conforming to those hours, any of you can call the Board of Zoning Appeals. If they're violating a condition that we place on the premises, we can revoke that grant. We retain jurisdiction to do that. So when people say compliance, compliance, the burden to some extent to enforce compliance is upon the neighbors. I mean, if the neighbors see that they're opening till 4 a.m., the neighbors should call the Board of Zoning Appeals and say, look, they're open, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, they were supposed to be closed at 10 or 11, and they're not doing that. And then we'll seek to call them back, and we can revoke the grant just the way if we make a grant, okay?
Okay. And also, the parking that is on Willoughby Avenue, where the cars park head into the building on the east side, was a variance granted for that? Because, as many of the people said, there's not enough clearance on the sidewalk there. If I walk to CVS, I have to walk in the street.
Go ahead.
I did a bit of research in the back. There are older plans showing the parking in the front yard on Merrick and behind it. None of the plans from the 63 survey show it on Willoughby. Something that might need to be discussed further after this hearing, but as of right now, I wasn't able to find it, or that file is not. So I'll check the building department as well to make sure that there wasn't something previously granted. But as of right now, that's the only site plan I have.
Joe.
So,
Why don't they
does
say,
that mean that those
you know,
parking
back
spots are
in
not to
early?
code then? They're not,
What's the
they're
big
not
deal
legal?
with that?
We don't know.
No, no, but why can't the signs read, just park backing in?
Okay, thank you.
No, you already had your say. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We give people a lot of leeway, but this could go on forever. Okay? Mr. Brown?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'll just sum up briefly just to, first of all, confirm what you mentioned a moment ago. Yes, it's true, in general, hours of operation are difficult to regulate, but not where the applicant gives a consent, and we unequivocally give our consent to the limitations being imposed that we've recited on the record. In terms of occupancy, although we don't have the actual, public assembly posting number fixed right now, we would agree to a limit of no more than 70 persons in the place at any one time. So the board we would consent to that being imposed by the board as a separate occupancy limit. I know a lot of these complaints stem from the existing conditions of the site. I'm not defending those conditions. Obviously, my client wasn't there. I've seen the photographs. I understand why people would be upset about some of the way the property has been maintained. There's no objection on our part to other conditions that even go a little bit beyond the ambit of this application in terms of requiring the landlord to install proper fencing and to properly fence in the dumpsters that are there. That we do not require a dumpster. We are not putting one in. Whatever is there now is the landlord's responsibility. They're not in, according to what I'm aware, they're not in a parking space, but we have no objection to conditions requiring that they not obstruct parking and that they be properly fenced in and contained. As I said, we're not adding a dumpster. It's not a bar restaurant. This is not a food service place. As I mentioned, the most food you would get here is some snacks or hors d'oeuvres to enjoy with your drink. So we're not going to be generating the kind of food waste that a restaurant would generate. And the final point, just to remind everybody and the board, this is a legal retail store. It could be open 24 hours a day. You could have another convenience-type store here, open at 3 o'clock in the morning, people coming in and out. So the conditions that exist will persist regardless of whether this application is granted. People will be parking here, and they could do so at many more hours and with more frequency than is proposed here. Remember, this business will only be open in the evenings, and it will only be open 5 out of the 7 days a week. So roughly half or even more of the time, the business won't be operating at all. So I think that is a reasonable compromise, recognizing the concerns of the neighbors and some of the constraints of the site. But I think if you tailor it the way that we've proposed, with the limitations that we've proposed, it works from a traffic and parking perspective, and it also will not be a nuisance to the neighborhood.
Thank you. Just so the residents are aware, some of these cases will be decided today. Some of the cases will be put on hold. In many instances, some of the members of the board, if not all of the members of the board, will go out and make their own observations before we render a decision. Okay, so it's not, the decision is not made in a vacuum, right? Thank you all for participating. Oh, I'm sorry, question.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Okay, you said 5 days a week, so that'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
No, that'll be Wednesday through Sunday, closed Mondays and Tuesdays.
All right. And hours, 5 a.m.,
5 p.m.
5 p.m.
5 p.m. to 10 p.m., Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday, 5 p.m. to 1 a.m., Friday and Saturday.
Okay, so 5 p.m. to 1 a.m., Friday and Saturday?
Correct.
Okay. And again, the limit originally was said 65, so now we're up to 70?
If you'd like to go to 65, we can. I'm just trying to be fair to everybody.
Okay, let's stay at 65.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you all for participating. Do I have a motion? Are there any other questions from the board?
No, sir.
Do I have a motion?
I move the hearing be closed, the case placed on the decision calendar. When the board renders its decision, you will be notified in writing.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Home safe. Thank you all for participating.
Jesus, I never heard her say that Wednesday.
You do?
Well, I'm glad I put it on the record again. Okay.
LLC. Do I have any comments from the board? If not, do I have a motion?
I move case 263 of 23 Woodmere Eastwood Residence at 302 Eastwood Road be approved as requested.
Second?
Second that?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Case 264 of 2023 has been adjourned to May 24th at 2 p.m. Case 265, Lido Beach Eisler Enterprises LLC has been adjourned to May 10 at 9:30 a.m. Case 266 of 2023, East Meadow Mitchell Field Senior Citizens Redevelopment Company. Do I have any comments from the board? If not, do I have a motion?
I move that case 266, 23 in East Meadow, Mitchell Field Senior Citizens Redevelopment Company at 1485 Front Street be granted with the appropriate with the appropriate conditions, and then we'll put the sequence in backwards. And I also move that, based upon the testimony and the evidence submitted to the board, that the board declare this a negative declaration under CEQA.
Second?
Second.
All in
Second to both.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Case 267, CSS Oceanside, LLC, DBA is F45 Fitness. Do I have any comments from the board? If not, do I have a motion?
I move case 267 of 2023, located at 3131 Long Beach Road, Oceanside, be granted as requested.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Case 163 of 2023, I believe we're going to hold that for any number of reasons.
Yeah.
And case 200 of 2023 in West Hempstead, that case has been adjourned to May 17th at 2 p.m.
I just have one thing,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. There was a resolution that we adopted back in September of last year concerning a case 999 Hempstead Turnpike, numbered 987 through 988, 18, located on 999 Hempstead Turnpike in Franklin Square. There were findings that were adopted about 3 years ago pursuant to an Article 78 petition. We readopted them, our findings on that date. Because of a mistake I made, it never made it to the minutes. So I have the same exact resolution that was approved in September 14th. I was hoping the board would be able to readopt these findings so we can put them in the minutes and it'll be a part of the public record.
Can we have a motion?
I move that we readopt the findings as enumerated by Mr. Vogel.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye. We'll say
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions?
Thank you.
One more thing.
One more.
That 250-23, the one from this morning with the defective notice, they never called us back.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to dismiss? Or we can-
We can adjourn from the bench and give them one more shot if they don't show up. I think we should.
Yeah,
All
I would
right.
do that.
If they don't show up, then we.
Pick a date.
May 24th, 9:30.
May 24th, 9:30, case is adjourned. Do I have a motion? No, we don't need a motion on
I
that.
move that we adjourn.
It's adjourned to May 24th at 9:30.
aye. Aye, aye.
We have spontaneous motions to adjourn for the day.